to the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank everybody for sticking with me through all of these episodes and months as I have been sharing the story of our daughter. But one of the greatest things that I've been able to use this podcast and this platform for is to be able to share other people's stories, other people's journeys, organizations, families, and give them an opportunity to use an outlet that has zero censorship. So today I am going to welcome Alex to the show, and she's going to share the story of her son, Willie. So Alex, the floor is yours.
So my son Willie is 4. He has battled hepatoblastoma stage 4, high risk, twice now. It began a couple weeks after his 2nd birthday. We found a lump in his abdomen. We had already had previous concerns that were kind of brushed off as lactose intolerance before this. So we went to the pediatrician. She immediately sent us to our local children's hospital here in Temple. And we got an ultrasound, and within 1 hour, we got that diagnosis. They originally thought maybe neuroblastoma, but because of where it was located, which was his liver, and then metastasized to his lungs, she said hepatoblastoma. I immediately Googled it. Of course I did, and found out the survival rate for stage 4 was not great. He had a really rough road. We contracted some nasty virus. He lost 1/3 of all of his intestines, his small and large intestine. He ended up with an ileostomy bag on TPN, super sick for a long time. He came out on the other side. He was in remission for 18 months, and he relapsed in March of this year in his left lung. Treatment was shorter this time because his kidneys couldn't handle all of the chemo we were throwing at him. But he had surgery, we removed the tumor, and his AFP is stable for now. And I say for now because I never feel safe anymore.
I think you hit on something that's really important, is that, a lot of things, but that once this diagnosis comes down, that life for us as parents going through this and with our children is never the same. And a bruise is not a bruise. A cough is not a cough. From here on out, we always go to the worst. We always go to the end. My wife is like that. I tend to put up a little bit more of a wall and not let it in, but at the same time, fully realizing that it could be the worst thing ever and it could just be something simple, but you can't ever go back to that simple diagnosis anymore.
Not at all. We have an older son who's been pretty healthy for the most part, and even with him, I'm like, why are you bruising, or why are you coughing, or I immediately get protective of William. I'm like, wait, are you sick? Do we need to be concerned? Because William still has his port. So we have to worry, if he has a fever, it's an immediate trip to the ER.
Right. It's never something easy and simple. And from this point on, you're also at the edge of your seat. We can talk about things like anxiety is a real thing. PTSD within our community is a real thing. I think that a lot of times is only associated with, say, first responders or military, but PTSD within this community is a massive thing, and it's based on the things that we see and hear, we smell, whatever. All of this will trigger you for the rest of your life, and there's nothing that you can do, whether your child beats this and goes on to live a long life, whether they pass like our daughter. You will never have those triggers go away. And it's an unfortunate thing, but we live with it every day.
Well, yeah, one of the things I struggled with this time around was I didn't want to be in the hospital. So when William was first diagnosed, I spent about that whole month with him because I wasn't working, obviously, in the hospital, and I had to listen to the respirator go off. I had to listen to the beeps, and it just traumatized me so much. And I was away from my other son. They told me to plan William's funeral when he was diagnosed with when his intestines were dying. They told me to plan his funeral. So I did with my dad, right? And I just couldn't handle it this time. So my husband this time took the brunt of the hospital stays. And people were like, well, why can't you go to the hospital? And I'm like, I can't even walk into the hospital without having anxiety attacks. I can't walk into the oncologist without telling myself, it is what it is. You just have to give it to God and hope for the best. And if not, then at least you have a plan. And every time we go, I'm like, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Because I don't know how else to walk into the office without losing it, and I can't lose it in front of William because then he freaks out.
Right. It's, I know the same thing for us. I can't, the beeping of the machines, when they're done giving an infusion or there's an error in the line, all of those types of beeps, I can't deal with listening to them anymore. And I know that we've had parents in the past who have called. We used to, my friend and I, we used to do three-way phone calls and talk to these parents. And when those beeps would go off, I would have to hang up the phone. I couldn't do it. My father he was in the hospital for a little while with an infection, and the same thing. I would just walk over and silence his machine until somebody came in because I couldn't listen to it anymore. And that is just, it seems insignificant to some people, that simple beep or a simple whatever it seems, but it is really, really hard and really triggering. And to continue to walk back into a place after a diagnosis that you see the same people, that has the same sights, the same smells, that sound, 100% with anxiety and it being tough. And my wife and I, we split that. When there was inpatient, it was me. When it was just doctor visits, it was just her, because she couldn't do it being away. And not that I could do it any better. I guess it's just the role that I took on. And it's hard. It's hard to be away from your family and doing that, but you know that you're doing it for the right reason.
Yes. And I mean, Steven was really like a rock this time around. Like, I couldn't handle any bad news. I was like, I'm out. I can't do it. And Steven was like, he would explain things to me. Like, the previous time it was me. So like the doctors would come to me. They would tell me all the things. They would say, you need to do this, this, and this. You need to call this, and this person. And I'd be like, okay, I'll handle it. But this time around, like, as soon as our oncologist was like, hey, it's back. And they had just lost a kiddo like a couple days before we had found out. And you could tell he was just like, I cannot believe this is happening. And I was like, I can't do this today. And he was like, and then we had to, come home, and we had to tell our other son. And he was like, what do you mean it's back? And I was like, and he was like, but mommy, you can't leave me. I don't want to be left with my other grandparents. And that was another thing, like, people didn't realize, like, we had to juggle Edward, and we had to make sure our dogs were safe, and we had to make sure our house was maintained, all on top of being inpatient, doing the surgery. I mean, Edward was in school this time. There was no, he can go stay with his dad for a couple of days while we're inpatient. It was, who's going to stay home with Edward, and who's going to go with William? And no, everybody was like, I don't understand why y'all can't just give him to a grandparent. And I'm like, he's in school. He needs a routine. His life didn't stop because William is sick, unfortunately. I mean, we just have to do what we have to do, and a lot of people didn't understand that.
Yeah, that is something that is difficult to get people to really realize when it comes to this type of diagnosis, this community, is that a lot of us have 100 other responsibilities that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Other children. We have 2 older daughters. We have other children. You have a house. You have a job. Whatever. Life doesn't just give you a pass and doesn't give you a vacation when you're going through this with your child. Everything continues to go forward. The bills still come in. You know what I mean? The sun still sets and rises. Everything still happens every single day. You have to figure out a way to manage it all. And so I've said 100 times before, if you want to be supportive of us as parents in this community, you don't have to drop money on us. You don't have to do that. But you know what? Call up one day and say, hey, can I go do your grocery shopping for you? Can I drop off a meal? Do you just want me to talk to you? Do you want me to sit with your other child so you can take a walk around the block? Little simple things like that can mean the world. My wife and I didn't date or didn't go out on dates for the longest time after JC was diagnosed. We had a friend of ours that just came on our anniversary because we were just going to sit at home and sat with her for a few hours. Well, we went to the hardware store and walked around. We didn't do anything crazy, didn't go to dinner. We literally just got out of the house. And the whole time we actually felt bad that we needed to be back home. Mm-hmm. But you have to take care of yourself. And that's something that people don't realize, is that this is a full-time 365-day a year job that we don't get to clock out from. And the rest of the world doesn't just stop for us.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that was one thing, so I started school again when William was in the middle of this last diagnosis. And I would come to the hospital with all of my college books, and I would just sit there and do work, and he would watch his tablet, or he would color, or, the nurses would bring him toys or whatever. And they're like, I can't believe you're going to school while this is happening. And I'm like, I was called, I feel like, to one day be a nurse. So that's what I want to do. And if one day William leaves me, I have that to fall back on, and I can take care of other kids that are like my baby. So I'm going to go to school and focus on that and not focus on the potential bad things. that could happen because, anything can happen. And I mentally am not prepared for the worst. But physically, we are, right? But we never hope for that. But I told the nurses, I was like, I don't have a choice. My life will still go on. But if I'm a nurse, at least I will be able to help other families that went through what we've gone through and give that compassion that I wish we had on the bedside that maybe other nurses aren't willing to give or they don't understand. And then what really solidified it for me is I met a nurse at our hospital who had lost her son to neuroblastoma. And she was like, I went to school while he was battling. I'm so proud of you for doing this. It's such an amazing thing to do and to take care of these kids. And, when you're a nurse and you watch these parents go through what you've been through, you can deliver that compassion that I don't think some of these nurses have. And I was like, well, if that's not God, I don't know what is. So I'm going to go to college and work my butt off and be a nurse one day and make Willie proud, whether he is here or not.
Well, it is incredibly commendable what you are doing, and I've met several people actually that are doing this, and it's incredible to take everything that you're going through and realize how much you could be of help to other people and give back. And to have that ability, that bedside manner. Nurses and doctors that work within the pediatric cancer and pediatric parts of hospitals, I believe, are a different breed of people. But a lot of when you are able to go through something like this and you are able to see it firsthand, I think the compassion level and what you're able to give back is so much higher. So you will be an incredible asset to so many families and children because you've seen it and you know how you can relate to them versus just being that doctor nurse, that nurse patient relationship. They're not a number anymore. And far too many of us as parents or as our kids are treated as just a number. It's just a patient number. And to have that connection, I guarantee you, right now, you're going to get me to get upset now, but I guarantee he's already incredibly proud of you.
Thank you.
But what you're able to do moving forward will definitely give him, this is my mom. She watched me go through this. And all the time, all she was thinking about, on top of taking care of me, was how much more she could give back to the community. So he's proud now, and he will continue to be. And from my side, as a parent, and from the community, right now, I'll say thank you for doing what you're doing because it will be an incredible asset.
Absolutely. No, I love trying to be as involved as I can be. And we were just involved last weekend in a fundraiser and to bring awareness. And I want to work with this lady even more because we've been trying to get our local school district to do gold games. Because, of course we do the pink. But our local school district hasn't done gold games, which is insane to me because I've known multiple kids that have come through our school district that have had cancer, that have passed away from cancer. And I was like, I want there to be more awareness because we're a military community. We're not military ourselves, but we are a military community. And there's so many kids that, get diagnosed and these parents don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to call. They don't know who to talk to. And I feel like that was one of the things that was super isolating for me when William was first diagnosed was I got on TikTok and I was like, I don't know anybody. I don't know who to talk to. So I just started posting. And then, of course, I met all of you guys. And I was like, wow, finally, I've met people like me. And then I've met Amanda and Shelby and Lauren. And I was just so grateful for all of them, especially this time around because I was not handling it at all. Steven handled, everything, which I was grateful for because mentally, I think I'm still processing the first time. So mentally, I'm still struggling and I still can't handle anything. And he's like, well, I'll just handle it. You go hang out with Edward. You go do your homework. Go walk the dog. Do something that is not cancer. But of course, in September, I'm like, Childhood Cancer Awareness Fact all month. But I've been working with that lady, and I'm gonna try to go to a school board meeting and just see if we can try to do something.
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not mentioned. I mean, the school districts in every other town next to us do it. Why can't we?
Yeah, that is a constant struggle to get any of that type of awareness out there and to get people to listen to what you're saying. It is, and I will say, I did not come up with the term. This is the community of that, but pink washing is a real thing. I did not come up with that. That was said to me by a breast cancer survivor, and they were sickened by it. I get the marketing. I get the awareness. I get the funding 100%, and I'm behind that community 100%. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I really believe that the pediatric cancer community and the breast cancer community need to work together to raise awareness and raise funds. And I'll tell you why, especially my daughter, okay? She was a girl. Girls are way more susceptible to developing breast cancer later in life based on the treatments and cancers that they have now.
Exactly.
So we are connected in this. So we need to be working together, not looking to drown each other out. September belongs to the kids, 1,000,000%. And if you want to raise awareness for other things, that's your thing. Do that. But don't drown us out and give us the opportunity to be that same level, every single year, instead of us begging and pleading for you to do something with us, because we know that the NFL, the MLB, all these are all going to turn pink, right, in October. We know that. But what's going to happen in September? Nothing unless we do something about it. We're not going to get those proclamations from our governors or our mayors unless we call their offices. We're not going to get the gold White House unless somebody's in there that you can get them to actually listen to what you're saying, and you don't get the blanket proclamation that, as far as I'm concerned, means nothing because They don't talk about it afterwards, right? And this is the thing that we need, is that when we're begging and pleading for people to listen to us, it's not because we feel like we're left out. We're left out of this entire fight, but yet we're here. And pediatric cancer is extremely prevalent in all of our communities. I challenge anybody to walk to 10 houses in your community and not find somebody that's affected by it, either personally or they're connected to somebody. And you'll find at least one, I guarantee it.
I agree. And that was one thing that really bothered me, especially, I don't know why it really bothered me this year, but I found pink in Walmart in August. And I was like, okay. And then, so we had the fundraiser last weekend. Apparently there was a fundraiser for breast cancer awareness the same weekend. And I was like, it's September. And unfortunately, there is a lady in our community, I'm not going to name her name, who runs a foundation for breast cancer. And that's great, and I love it, and I'm so proud of her. But she does a 5K for breast cancer awareness every September. And I get so mad. And my husband's like, get off the Facebook pages, because I want to comment and I want to say something. And he's like, Alex, don't do it. Like, it's not going to be good. Like, that community is much more prevalent than ours. And I said, that's the problem. They're more prevalent than ours. And it makes me so mad because I've watched so many little babies pass away from cancer. When is it enough? Why do I have to keep screaming from the rooftops? I know it's sad. I lived it. You've lived it. We know how horrible it is. That should make you give a shit more. Because I'm tired of screaming at y'all to give a shit about our kids. And I'm tired, but I'm going to still keep fighting because Willie deserves better. JC deserved better. Raymond, all of our kids deserved better than what they got. And it makes me so mad. I'm gonna get on my little soapbox. I can't even watch. I don't watch TV. I can't watch commercials this month. It just makes me so angry. And this year it made me more especially angry because, I didn't think William was going to relapse. We did the clinical trial. We did all the things we were supposed to do. We kept him on his meds. And then, in January, his AFP started rising, and Dr. McGregor was like, I don't want to worry you yet. And I was like, okay. And then, of course, in March, it tripled, and he was like, we need to worry. And I was like, okay. But, we didn't think. We were so close to the 2-year mark. We were so close to less blood work, less pokes. And then, cancer said, hey, I'm back. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And
No,
when
I,
is it?
no, I agree with you. I agree. I 100% agree with you. And when will what we're going through or our kids going through be enough for you to put it out there and actually hear? I've always said that I don't want people to understand what we're going through in the sense of and feeling those feelings of how we feel. I don't want that to be a thing. I want you to realize that we are people. These children, without them here, there will be no future. There will be no anything that you're fighting for right now. There's not going to be anybody to be a politician, to vote you into office or vote you out. There's not going to be anybody to run major corporations. All of that is going to be gone. No doctors, no future pilots, no anything if we don't save the community now. And so when we're walking, going to capitals, going to the mayor's office, whatever, knocking on doors, and we're being told that you have other events scheduled that day, so you can't meet or you can't come to our event, you can't do this and that. What is more important? Because every single politician, I promise you, if I sat here and made a montage, I could go Republican, Democrat, Independent. It doesn't matter to me. None of that stuff matters to me. And I can guarantee that every single one of you mentioned children in your campaigns, every single one. Now, what it was it food? Was it homelessness? Was it education? It doesn't matter. You mentioned kids, which means at some point you either gave a damn or they were nothing but pawns to you. But they're not pawns to us. They're our children. They're our future. And January 29th, 2020, we were not cancer parents. January 30th, we became cancer parents. And from that moment forward, we fought for 520 days until our daughter passed and gained her angel wings on July 3rd, 2021. From that moment forward, I have made it a mission to make everybody's life hell that does not want to listen to what we're saying and let you know how significant we are, our community is, our families are, and every single one of these children out here. This is why we do this. This is why we run a nonprofit. This is why we go to D.C. This is why we host this podcast, why we're on social media, why we're doing everything. Not because I want accolades. I don't have any awards on the wall, and I don't want them. I just want a better future for our kids. I want JC to have survived. I want Willie to survive. I want them to go on and be great and huge impacts on the society and do amazing things. Every single child that is diagnosed with cancer, if they pass, they lose 71 years of life. 71 years. I'm only 43, which means I've only got 30 extra years, and I would give those up in a second to any one of these children if that meant they could go on and live a happy life. But we can't do that. Our voices are the only thing we have.
Yeah, and I try to, so they do, the pink thing at school, right? And so every time they do it, I send Edward in a gold chair. I go gold for my brother, and people comment on it, and he's like, no, I wear gold for my brother. Didn't you know? And most people don't know because either A, they don't pay attention. I drive around with big old signs all over my car in September, October, and most of December saying something about childhood cancer or liver cancer, since that's what William had. And I try to raise awareness also about hepatoblastoma, because I didn't hear about hepatoblastoma until Willie was diagnosed. I didn't know anything about it. And he wasn't even like genetically predispositioned for it, or whatever they say. He wasn't premature. He wasn't a low birth weight. None of those things. So when they told me he has hepatoblastoma, I was like, what is that?
Right.
So all of October, I go green because it's Liver Cancer Awareness Month, but nobody talks about it.
And I'm also guessing that if it's liver cancer that he was not a heavy drinker. No? Okay. I'm just checking, because everybody seems to think that you can figure out where pediatric cancer comes from. Adult cancer is a lot of it we can link to lifestyle. We can link to a lot of things. Not all of it, but we can. Childhood cancer has zero. You cannot link it to certain things. And when you think about liver cancer, okay, well, obviously he wasn't a heavy drinker. Lung cancer, obviously they're not heavy smokers out there vaping and doing things. Our daughter had brain cancer. Brain cancer is the number one killer within pediatric cancer, and they have no idea why it happens. And there's no reason for it. So, yeah, we can't link it to all that stuff. So I think that's the biggest kicker in all of this, is not understanding why, where, when, and that's what we need to understand.
Yes. And I agree. When they were like, well, do you have a risk of colon cancer? And I was like, yeah, but I don't have the FAP gene, so can we test him? And I was like, yeah, guess what? All his genetic testing came back normal. So I'm like, then what is it? And his oncologist at the time, because we switched towards the end of his treatment, she was like, I don't know. Sometimes it just happens. I'm like, that's not an answer I want. Like, that's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for my husband. Like, I need better answers. You say it's a 1 in a million cancer, right? But I know a kid who was diagnosed and passed, Ray, and I watched that happen while I was holding Willie in the hospital when he was super sick. So you can imagine me sitting there with my baby having stage 4 hepatoblastoma, watching him pass away and wondering, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. No, it's amazing how much, like, when Jace was diagnosed, it was roughly about 30 kids in the U.S. that were diagnosed with her type of cancer every year. So that was in itself super rare.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing how quickly through social media we found a dozen other families with the same type of cancer across the country, and at different levels, different stages. Some since then, some have passed, some are thriving. There's no rhyme or reason, but what I will say is that there's also zero protocol for a lot of these types of cancers, and no one family that we have met has ever had the same exact protocol. In fact, the same exact drugs that our daughter used. There's no, it is very much dart at a dartboard, and they hope for the best. And all we can do is keep screaming and yelling for clinical trials and for people that will do things that will make a difference in the world. But that's us as parents, as advocates that are carrying the weight of the world of all this research. We're the ones going into the doctor's office saying, hey, can you try this? Can you try this? Hey, can you do this? We're reaching out across the country for second opinions or looking up, research papers. Like, that's not our job. But we become the doctor, the scientist, the researcher. We become all of that, the nurse, and we don't get to clock out at the end of the day. And as a matter of fact, I had an argument with somebody a few months ago on social media because I flat out told him that I feel like I'm smarter than doctors, and he thought I was crazy. I said, I'm not smarter because I'm book smart. I'm smarter because I lived it every single day, because we don't get to clock out and go home.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like, you're doing it every day. So yeah, you learn. Your children at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old can recite to you their chemo drugs. That is not the type of vocabulary they're supposed to have at this young age, or what it makes them feel like.
Exactly.
And that's horrible. I mean, and you're to the point where, as a parent, we had to make a joke out of the fact that when our daughter was given methylene blue to counteract the side effects of ifosfamide, we had to make a joke about how it changed the color of her pee. And when it was no longer bright blue like neon, that's when we could go home. We shouldn't be playing that type of game with our kids. And that's what we want you to understand. But I had to ask my wife for permission the other day, and she said no. I have pictures on my phone that I can release on the internet that are not happy and that are not good and that are not safe for work. And I said, do you think this is too far? And she said yes. So I didn't do it. But if you want to see the true, real side of pediatric cancer that isn't in a commercial with happy kids smiling, I promise you we can all share that with you, and we will bring the strongest, most intense man to his knees.
Yeah. I have pictures of William that are absolutely horrific. And I mean, when my dad is the strongest man I know. My rock solid foundation during this whole journey. When he saw William, he was crying. My dad has never cried in my life. I've never seen that man cry until that day. And then he went outside with me and we planned that little boy's funeral because they told me I had to. And my dad still has the plans in case something happens, because I know mentally I will never be able to do it. But he has the plans, and I know that he will handle it for me, so that's why he has it. But I mean, that's a testament to the journey itself. And I mean, people were like, why are you so strong? And I'm like, do we have a choice? I'm out here looking up all the side effects of William's chemo. I'm keeping track of every single chemo dose he gets. I'm keeping track of every hospital visit, of all his medications. I mean, I don't have a choice. This is my life. This is what I have to do to make sure, hopefully, my child survives. And I'm going to give him his medication. I'm going to do what I have to do. And he's going to cry because he wants to go home. And I want to go home too. We just got to do what we got to do. And I mean, his last cycle, it was 3 days of intense chemo in the hospital. And they sent him home. He was pretty sick already. He was puking. And I woke up every 8 hours and gave him Zofran, and that was the only way I could keep him from not eating. Because if he was not getting his Zofran every 8 hours, then he was puking and he'd be like, I'm not eating anything, and then he would throw up more because he was on magnesium and potassium to keep his kidneys functioning. And I'm like, I don't know how people do this. And I mean, I've done it with an ostomy bag and TPN, and that was horrible. But like, this is worse because I felt like these last cycles he did were horrible on his body. And I mean, he got doxorubicin last time, and I feel like it was worse this time. And I told our oncologist that, and he was like, it's because, you had 18 months of a break, but that's not enough. And we're pumping him full of chemos, hoping they work. We don't know if they're going to work.
Right. Yeah. It is a hope and pray with this. I know with cancer in general, but with kids, it is a hope and pray. And there's, chemo is a bitch, and what it does to a child's body, I will just give you this for reference. And I've talked about it in the past, but we are told as parents, as caregivers, unpaid caregivers at that, we are told that we are not to get this chemo on us. We are not to get, if they pee, we're not supposed to get the urine on us, the blood, anything. We're not supposed to get it on us because it has the chemotherapy drugs in it. So what the hell is it doing to the inside of their body?
Exactly.
So that is the reference I want everybody to understand. We are absolutely, and if you've ever seen a nurse, if you've never seen it, you know what? I probably have some pictures that I can show you. When they come in to give these chemo drugs, they are dressed like it is the outbreak. It is gowns, it is masks, it is shields, it is gloves. The chemos come in their own bag, the own tubing, all that stuff, and all that has to be discarded at the end like biohazard waste. Not just like a water drip where they can just throw the bag in the trash. This is biohazard waste. What is it doing to the inside of your child's body? And
Exactly.
You're watching what it happens on the outside.
Exactly.
It is absolutely horrible and horrific. And you mentioned doxorubicin. That is it. We never had that, but there's a nickname for that drug, and it's called the Red Devil. And I think, you know what? I mean, just think about that for a second. That is what is happening. I can give you side effects of these chemo drugs that our daughter went through, and it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And as an adult, I don't know that I would have been able to handle what our daughter went through. But these kids, the fact that they can wake up and smile at you and they know that you're there for them, they don't understand a lot more than we give them credit for, but they also don't understand why is this happening to me, but they still smile and they still give us that genuine heart that they have. And God, do we need more of that in this world right now, is these kids. If anything else, that's why we need to save, because we need those genuine hearts in this world right now to save us from everything.
I agree. I mean, William, the only reason why I knew he was feeling okay was when he would smile or play, or I would hear him giggling on he'd be watching his little phone. And he'd be giggling and I'd be like, okay, he's okay. But this second he stopped, or he was too tired, or he didn't want to play with, we got a dog in February, and if he didn't want to play with her, I knew that he would, we were getting sick, or he was experiencing some of the side effects. And I mean, the doxorubicin, we have to have echoes every year because of that. He got cisplatin, so he has hearing loss, and I mean, he's basically deaf in his right ear. So now we're looking at hearing aids, and I just switched his audiologist because I didn't like the one at our local children's hospital. But I mean, we're looking at hearing aids. We're trying to get him in pre-K. And I'm like, if we put him in pre-K, how long is he going to be there? Do I need to worry? Will he make it through the year, And people don't understand that. And I mean, we had a lot of friends not make it, when he got re-diagnosed. I don't know of many people that still reach out, that are our friends, that are not involved in our cancer community, have healthy kids, because I don't know if they want to understand. And I don't know if something did happen, I don't know if they want to be around.
Yeah. I think there's, and I don't think maybe it's real to an extent, but I think there is a common misconception that somehow cancer is contagious, and also that maybe the reality of people being around that it shows them a reality that they don't want to understand, because yes, it could be you at any freaking day, because it doesn't discriminate. And because we don't understand it, it doesn't matter if you're living next to a pond or under a power line. Okay, none of this makes any sense or connection. And so, yes, the support level is very, very, very high in the beginning. Diagnosis phase, people, you damn near, it's like when you have a child and everybody wants to come and visit you and see the baby, they're around. Come a few months in, or even if your child ends treatment or passes, the support level will dwindle very quickly. And it's because people either don't know how to talk to you, so they feel like ghosting is the best thing, which is the worst thing you can do, or they are just they don't know. I think they feel it. That reality of it is, it could be my child, and if I distance myself from this, I won't have to see it. But that's what we're trying to change. It's because so many people can just turn their backs, shut their eyes, and assume that it doesn't happen. But when it does happen to you, the first people that you're going to run to are the ones that told you. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want this to happen to you. You know, we don't want you to go through this. But you got to realize that it's a true possibility that at any point it could happen. And you know what? It's, all of these social media doctors that tell us that it was the food we fed our child, or it was the vaccines that they got as children, whatever your case is. No, it's not. And the fact that that's what you want to hang your hat on, or that we even asked you for that advice, which we didn't.
Exactly.
Just be good humans, and and try to listen to what we're saying, and understand that we just want the world to know that our kids are going through this, and that there's hundreds of thousands of kids that are going through this every single day, and they just need your support, but they need you to listen to what we're doing, and step out of your box for a second, and don't disappear. You know what I mean? And I've said this, and it goes this both ways. Whether your child passes or whether your child hits that 5-year mark of cancer-free, after that point, either one of those points, that's when we need your support the most. The most. Because if your child hits that 5-year mark, well, even if they hit the 1-year mark, the 2-year mark, the 3-year mark, you're on the edge of your seat every single day, knowing there's a possibility something could happen and it could all turn. If we have family, or we have friends, they've had children that have stable tumors for years. And God bless, I hope that they stay that way. But there's always a chance that something goes wrong. And then, you start that timer over again. If your child passes, now we're trying to live and adapt to life without our child here, and what we're doing every single day. We need your support more than we needed it in the beginning. But we just, for whatever reason, it is almost like you have the plague, and people just dissipate as quickly as they came in.
Yes, I agree. I mean, when Willie was first diagnosed, of course, everybody showed out. But I mean, I was really skeptical of, number one, letting people around us, and number two, accepting that help. I just have a hard time with it. It's just me as a person. I'm the oldest daughter, if that helps explain anything. But, I always relied on my dad, and I always asked him if we needed help. I could always ask him. And then my mom has been a super great supporter. We're so lucky that we live within a very close distance of all of, like, my dad lives an hour away. My mom lives literally right down the street. My brother's an hour away. It's super nice to have all that family super close. And then Steven's, like, brother and sister, they have kids and they're super helpful with us. But I mean, like, friends, don't see them. I have like 2 friends, and I mean, they come around, and that's it. I mean, and I understand. I know it's hard. And I know people didn't realize that childhood cancer looks how it looks, but that's why I never shut up. Like, I'm going to tell you what it looked like. I'm going to show you what it looked like, because these little commercials don't show you anything. I'm not happy. William's not happy. He's not happy going to the hospital. I mean, he's happy if he gets to see his favorite nurse. That's it. Other than that, he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to get a poke. And I knew it was normal for him to get the poke when he sat there and didn't move.
Yeah.
And I was like, that he shouldn't just, he has ADHD. He doesn't sit for anything, but he'll sit for his poke and he'll be just fine. But that's when I was like, why is this normal for my baby? Why is this okay?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't stop talking about it. I've never stopped talking about Willie's journey. And I mean, the two friends that listen to me are the best, but I mean, like, after a while, I feel like people stop listening or, they turn away, which is fine. But like you said, if it happens to you, who are you going to come calling to? Me.
Yep, they'll reach out for help. They'll reach out for understanding or what's going on or how we can that kind of stuff. And the reality is we're good enough people that we're going to be there for them, right? We're gonna provide that support and stuff like that. But you have to kind of step outside your comfort zone. And in today's world, especially, you have to be nice to people, because it doesn't matter where you're at in life, where you work, where you go to school, where you do your shopping, whatever. You are always probably no more than a couple feet away from somebody that is having the worst day of their life.
Exactly.
And it could be this. It could be pediatric cancer. And pediatric cancer is something that I didn't know was as prevalent as it was until it happened to us. I grew up watching those damn commercials thinking that's horrible. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a parent going through that with their child.
Mm-hmm.
And then to come on the other side of it and say, that commercial's bullshit. There is nothing about that commercial that is true to anything that we went through ever. There was never a time when she jumped up and down, was excited to go to the hospital. Never a time when she was running around and playing. No, the only time she was excited was when we had to go for testing and her sister came with us to a hotel to stay overnight, because then they could hang out and they could laugh and play and stuff. But physically going to do testing, echocardiograms, to do lumbar punctures, and to do, when you get your port access, the size of the damn needle
is huge.
Is ridiculous. And the first time I saw it happen, they missed. And they had to go back and do it again. And it's unreal to watch your child go through that. And the first time I saw them physically during the chemo treatment put her to sleep with propofol, I had not seen that happen. She's sitting up on her tablet. They gave her the propofol, and it was instant. And she fell backwards onto they're with her, but it was like night and day. And they looked at me and they said, we probably should have prepared you for that. I said, yeah, probably, because it scared the hell out of me. The sights and sounds of pediatric cancer, I swear to God, would absolutely floor anybody. And I wish to the heavens, I don't say their name on here. We call them the commercial people. Everybody knows who we're talking about. Yep. I wish to the heavens that they would just show the truth. And I've also said this is the first year, 2024. This is the first year that I have ever seen them do it where they do a story and then they fast forward to 2 years later and tell you that child passed away. They always make it seem as though they save everybody. Childhood cancer is under control. The survival rates are going up. No, I will tell you this. Here's a statistic, and you can roll with it. They produce, and the government will produce, an 80% survival rate for pediatric cancer. Mm-hmm. What that really means is that you will survive for at least 5 years.